Well, hello, my darlings. I'm Faith from Faith and Grit, and I'm here for the very last video for the Craft Space Refresh 2026. It's been absolutely wonderful. I still got the last few videos to catch up on, and of course, my video will be the last one for the month. Oh my God, Dana and Cara, thank you so much. It's been really good fun following along and pottering away in my own space for sure. So there's the hashtag. I'll get these links down on the bottom as well. So, momentum and maintenance. So I've already done some around the room, but this video I want to look at two things in particular that are going to tie into not only making maintenance easier for myself, but I'm going to have something meaningful come out of it, and it's going to help me keep momentum up to keep things like my scraps in check, and also sort of how I plan on going forward again this year with managing things like laces and trims. So I do hope you stick around and enjoy, and I'll be back with you in just a tick. Right, my darlings, here's my before, my 5 minutes tidy up. That chair does not live there. I've got loads of stuff piled on the table and underneath. I'll come back to that. My sewing table, I've got stuff everywhere. I'll come back to the scrap trolley. I've got all this spread out across my space because I've been off doing side quests. But I'll come back to all of those now. So I'm going to set myself a timer, 5 minutes, and whiz around and put things back where they live. So watch this space. Right, well that didn't take long at all. So I'm relatively neat and tidy now. Things put away, back to where they live. So I haven't done all the changes that I wanted to. Like, for instance, I haven't done my ink sampling charts yet, but that'll come in time. I have spent some more time on this Clax wall, sort of moving some things about. I've got some extra storage trays into one of the cubes, and it's been blitzed out a little bit more. Still needs some more organization in places, but getting there. And I think it'll improve immensely over the year with some of the ideas I got. So coming around the room, my sewing station's ready to go. On this table here, I've got this collection of trays that I use when I've got a project on the go. So this is the beginnings of a new project here that you can see in that one tray. But this table, being as narrow as it is, I can shift it around the room as needed. And no, happy days. So my desk is ready to go. Everything's put back where it lives. And then one of the things I do after projects, and especially at the beginning of the year, is this scrap trolley. So right next to me, I've got the bin and I've got this scrap trolley. I do not save any scraps that overflow that bin. So this is one of the next things that I want to tackle going forward. And this year, I think I'm going to be even more ruthless than I was last year and just bin things. Because there's things in the bottom of that trolley that I haven't touched. I didn't touch at all last year. And if a whole year has gone by and I haven't used them, they can go in the recycling. So I'm going to go on to the scrap trolley next, move the camera, and come back because the scrap trolley ties in with what I've got here on my desk. So let me set the camera up and watch this space, darlings. Back in a tick. Right, back with my scrap trolley. And as you can see, the bin I've filled up. This basket here is mainly medium-sized pieces of file folder. Medium-sized pieces of file folder and brown and black cardstock and white cardstock pieces that are big enough to be useful. Anything smaller, I've put in the bin. So there's some larger pieces there, some sewing pattern paper. That bottom shelf is larger offcuts of file folders, and also some Polly Pockets of plastics, which I'm not going to get rid of just yet. But the trolley's been blitzed down. And then what I've got left, let me show you. My glue book, which is my sacrificial magazine to glue stick onto, that lives on top. This is a massive folder of just book page. Sorry, I can't do this one-handed. And this doesn't actually live in this room. It lives in my scrap trolley that I take to Craft Club with me. So that can go somewhere else. But then once I blitz through all the small stuff, sorry, I'm not very steady with this camera, I've ended up with the really interesting bits, if that makes sense. In and amongst all that, like tea-dyed Amazon paper and offcuts of writing paper are all the more interesting bits. So I'm going to stop there for a moment and come back to you then to show you my plan for these. So, back with you in a tick. Right, and I'm back, my darlings. I've gone through all that scrap. I've either binned it or I've sat and with a glue stick and put them all down. I'll come back to that. This is what I've got left. And it's going. All of it is going in the bin. So I can start fresh in my scrap trolley for 2026. So these are going to go away. My scrap trolley's very well pared down now. And the reason why I was talking about the scraps is because of these. Hold on. Oh, here we go. So I've sat with my scrap trolley after watching Ceri the Crafter's video on doing sort of more art journal books of just experimenting more with mixed media. So I sort of had a plan and I got started. Let's pop this one to the side a minute. Let me show you. These I'll come back to. Let's stick a paper clip on it. So I started with this one that I found in a charity shop. And I just started putting book page down and going over the top of the book page with different mediums. So I tried my Posca pens there. I had some issues with the Poscas because it was making the book page underneath pill up and start to disintegrate. But I've got a quick fix for that. So just a bit of mindfulness. I can sit down, potter away on a page. I'm never going to be done with these pages. I'll just keep adding to them. I've got that one then. I sat and doodled some dogwood blossoms and went back and I tried my hand with some oil pastels. And again, the background is just my scraps. So again, a page that's not ever going to be finished. I'll keep adding to it. What I do with them or if I keep them. I've left pages in between. So that is sort of my plan, is to go back and experiment with different techniques on backgrounds that I've used scrap or book page. So there was another one there I've played with, and I've just gone in at random here. So I had a massive experiment in the background here using isopropyl alcohol or rubbing alcohol as it's known in America of getting different paint effects. So that was quite fun. But again, it's just using scraps and things that I've got about. So I want to continue to fill And like on this one, sorry for the crinkle, because I noticed the book page underneath was starting to get wet and give up and pill up, I did some more backgrounds of things out of my scrap trolley, and I've gessoed on the top. So like that one I've gessoed, I've done some light inking, I've gone back in with pen. So yeah, it's just going to be a place to play. So but what I did find was once I got a lot of that surplus offcuts, oh pardon me, I gotta sneeze. No, and once I found out that I got a lot of that surplus offcuts out of my scrap trolley, I had a lot more interesting pieces that were hidden amongst those offcuts. So that's what I've done with these. That's why the washi tape is still on there, because I want to go back and gesso these before putting them aside ready for play. So again, those I've gessoed. It's just book page, but I put a really cheap, almost a translucent white gesso over the top of them. So they're ready for me to go back in and play with whatever I want. So that was the black cardstock one. And again, with this one, I had all these interesting scrap pieces hidden amongst, you know, some more boring scrap pieces, for lack of a better word. So I'm quite happy with these, and I'm going to go back, and I'm not sure if I've done much. Yeah, these I've gessoed these down. I think I experimented on these with a bit of matte gel medium, but it's made the paper warp a bit. So this is my page. These are going to be my books this year to experiment with that sort of thing, to see what kind of effects I can get with combining different mediums. So I've got that white one, the black one, and then I've got this little one. So that's what I did with just some random scrap I had. And then if you look on this side, I had far more interesting pieces that were buried in that scrap trolley. And again, on this side, I had a lot more sort of interesting pieces buried along. So that's my goal, is to have these three books to just experiment with and play with as the year goes on. And I'm hoping it will also help me keep my scrap trolley under a little bit more control and think more about what I put in the scrap trolley, if that makes sense. So that's all for part one for me. There is one more thing that I want to show you, and it's about how to keep your ribbons and trims and things under control after you finish a project, which I put in place last year, which I found has worked really well for me. So give me a tip. Let me go and find my basket, and I'll show you. So, back in a moment. Right, as I said before, laces and trims are everywhere around my room. So up here, on that tall narrow one, that I have some spools, and I've got a box at the very top there. That clear box is full of a lot of my more antique laces, and laces that are just really, really big pieces. So I've got, let me back up a minute, try not to get too wobbly. In my Alex, I do have a drawer. These are more of like your sort of commercial, modern spools of trims that I've picked up. These Alex drawers, I haven't addressed this month at all. I'm going to come back to them. And then there's a sort of an overflow drawer underneath that's got some spools on it. But the vast majority of my trims and laces now live in that tiny square there. And I'm going to show you how. Because what is in that little square probably would have taken up 2 of those drawers. So what I do is I've got a lap desk here. I think it's from Hobbycraft. And I keep it under the table in here. So if I've got to do fussy cuts, things I want to take downstairs and do on my lap in front of the TV, I use that for that. But one of the biggest game changers last year was once I finish a project and I've unraveled or treasure hunted loads and loads and loads and loads of treasure, new trim, new lace, new everything. I take it downstairs and I've got an old paperback book in there and a stapler and a template. So let me reset the camera and I'll show you what happens. Right, darlings, from my lap desk, I've pulled the stapler, staples, a template, my paperback, and this messy basket. So I'll show you a couple to start off with and come back and show you the difference in once I had all these done. So I take a piece of paperback. I'm in camera, I think. So take a piece of your paperback and fold it in half and then fold it in half again, lengthways. And in half that way. So I've got that piece ready to go. With my template, I'm going to, and it doesn't matter what size your template is. What's that? It's a bit of fluff. It doesn't matter what size your template is. This is just a random piece of black cardstock that I've stapled. So once you've done it, slide it off, get it into your template. I give my bigger pieces a little bit of a squish and then staple them down. Oh, I stapled it and go through. It's just a cheap stapler it is. I need a new one. That's better. And then I step that bit off. That piece of lace now takes up far less space and room anywhere. And you're just using an old paperback. So let's try another one. Get a piece of book page out. This is just a paperback picked up at a charity shop for 20 pence. And so after I finish, especially if I'm doing a project that I'm using a lot of lace and trim, once it's done, I tend to put them back into that shape or give them an extra staple. I've used a lot of it up and trim off that end because it's just going to, I've just completely messed that one up, but it's fine. I'll redo it now. It keeps them under control. So if I'm treasure hunting as well and I've found new bits like this, I don't know what this funny red tape is. It's all over it, but if I get it loose, yeah. But again, when I'm treasure hunting so that everything goes in, but this doesn't happen overnight if you think about doing this job. It doesn't happen overnight. I've taken, baskets full down at times on that lap thing and just stapler, book page, and just tidy them all up. Any pieces that are too small to go on this template, I tend to have a glass jar for. I call it like my snippet jar. So if they're too small to organize this way, I put them in one of the glass jars. And I've just found, since I put this in place last year, it's far easier, not only space-wise, but to find what you're looking for. So I'll show you that much when we get back to the end here. So pop that. Sorry, I'm in the world of Own here. So I've done that off the template. Pop that book page over. Give it a little bit of a squish. You don't have to, but I find giving it a little bit of a squish gives you some tension on here, so it's not going anywhere. It is possible to get small pieces off without undoing that. And it's all about sort of space saving, because I went through so long treasure hunting, find this lace, find this trim, and then I couldn't find anything because it was all in a drawer. And it was all shoved in and shoved in and shoved in. And you open the drawer and it all goes, bing, hello. And I couldn't find what I was looking for. So this has been an absolute game changer this year. So let me put something interesting on to watch. And I'm going to sit here and tackle the rest of this basket using book page, template, stapler. So watch your space, darlings. Back in a tick. Right, my darlings, back and all sorted. And as you can see, they take up far, far less. I'd say maybe between a quarter to a third less space. And what I'm looking for is much easier to spot and find. So these go back into my little lap tray for taken downstairs and work it out. So these now will get squirreled away into my trays that go back into the clacks. And as you can see, these are like your clear refrigerator trays that you can find in a lot of the discount stores. So when I am looking for something specific, it's not much of a problem to spot what I want. So like a lot of these smaller ones can come into here. So I'll get these squirreled away and show you that after. I do have some here from like Southern Green that I haven't done in book page. But of course, these I've only recently had at Christmas. So those will eventually get the same treatment once I've opened them and used them. So I'm going to get those squirreled away. The exception being, hold on, I found a few pieces of applique that I've forgotten I even had. They were mixed up in there. So I need to put those somewhere slightly different. I'm not sure where yet, to make sure they don't get crumpled up. And those bits. So these are just off-cut bits that were in that basket, too small to wrap up. So what I've done in the past is I've got like a glass jar of these types of small snippets. And I've never made a snippet roll before. I've never made one. So that is one of my things for momentum and sort of maintenance going forward this year, is by using these jars of just periodically, the same as I sit to tidy up those laces, the same as I sit with those books to empty my scrap trolley, perhaps start a snippet roll and look at it in a similar fashion as the year goes on. So, right, let me get everything put away, and I'll jump back on with you in just a tick. Right, my darlings, back for a final little look around. I've gotten everything put away. All my sort of task lights on as I would normally use them in the night. So I'm really pleased with the progress I've made for January. Let's have a look. The lights on. So really happy with that top rail now and how I rejigged the rail system. My personal journals are easily accessible up the top. And of course, we've spoken about the scrap trolley. I've really run that down now. There's very, very little in there. and spoken about sort of how the art books are going to help me keep that under control, and just using those scraps up and thinking perhaps a little bit differently this year on which scraps get binned and which go into that trolley. So as for the laces and trims, I've had them all put away now. Try to go slow and steady here. All those laces and trims now are tidied away into these clear trays into one cube of the Kallax. So again, easily be able to find what I need, but then using that book page system at the end of projects after I've unraveled things to put everything away. Pardon. And just below that are those art scrapbooks are just below that. So it's sort of part of that process. And then up above Bob here, I've got 2 large jars of those trims and ribbons that are too small to be tidied away. And hopefully then, with meaning, along with the art books, get myself a snippet roll going this year. So I do feel quite lucky to have a space like this. I didn't always have a space like this. This is a fairly recent thing. But this is very much my happy place. So thank you ever so much to Cara and Dana. The collab has been absolutely brilliant and really inspiring, listening to others talk through how they manage their spaces as well. So thank you ever so much, everyone. And that's all for me. So hope to see you all back again soon. So bye for now.